Welcome to the New Mood Knitting Podcast. This is episode 1. Oh, I forgot to put my candle on. Now it's fall. Hi, and welcome to New Moon Knitting. My name is Hillary. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram at New Moon Knitting. And as I mentioned at the top, this is my very first inaugural podcast episode. So I'm so excited to show you guys some of the things I've been working on and the progress I've made on some projects. I am also very excited because today, the day that I'm recording this, is Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, which means that as of this morning, I believe at like 8:43 a.m., we had the fall equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, which means that officially, as of today, we are in the fall season. And I'm so excited. Oh, I'm so happy for this cooler weather. Today was the first day that I checked the 10-day forecast. And where I live in Northern Virginia in the United States. I'm kind of close to Washington, D.C. And it's been pretty warm. We've definitely had like days in the 80s over the past couple of weeks. And today, for the first time, I looked at the 10-day forecast and there was no days in the 80s coming up. And there was even a couple of days where the high was like 68. So I reorganized my closet yesterday. I went through and like took out all my summer stuff and I pulled out all of my sweaters, and I'm just so excited for the cooler weather so I can wear all my favorite knits. And so excited. So excited. And actually I already, this is one of the items I pulled out that I haven't been able to wear all summer. I guess we'll start by talking about that. So this is the Frisky Witch by Thea Coleman. It is a bottom-up slip-over pattern that is knit with kind of like all over ribbing, but then worked into that ribbing are these really lovely cable patterns that go around, just creating this like very lovely textured piece that is a wonderful layering piece. I knit the size 2, which I think was supposed to have a final measurement of about 39.5 inches, which gives me, I think, a little more positive ease around the waist than the original pattern. But I really like the fit of it. I'm glad I picked the size that I did. I knit this in Cloudborne Fibers Wool Bulky Natural in the colorway Smoke Heather. I think the yarn is now discontinued. I think it might have been discontinued when I bought it and I got a good deal on it. But it is really a lovely like mid-tone gray color, or I guess like a lighter gray color. The modifications I made to the pattern, the original pattern has like a higher neckline. It's more of like a rolled turtleneck neckline. But I knew that I wanted to layer this with pieces, and I particularly wanted the neckline to work with or without a collared shirt. So I've worn this before with a collared shirt over it, and I think giving it like a teeny bit of like almost a mock, but just really like a high crew basically is what it is. Puts it at a good place that you can fold a collar over it, and it doesn't, and it sits really well. I found in my own knitting, I don't love a turtleneck. I feel very constricted. So I think it looks really nice. I think it looks really nice. With this neckline, I like to, like, if I wear like a little mock turtleneck underneath, you can see that as well. This is a neckline I'm very fond of. And so, it's nice to see how that sits as well. I also think, I don't even know if you can see it. I think I might be too close, but okay, you can kind of see it. I made mine very cropped. I don't think the original pattern is this cropped, but I love when a pattern falls like right at my jean line. And that's why I did it short. Especially like with bulky items, because I cannot stop myself from like tucking in a garment, at least at the front of my pants, like doing a French tuck. It's like a force of habit. I can't stop myself. And so because I knew this was like going to be bulkier, I thought it would not look nice it wouldn't drape very well if I tucked it in. And so I was like, just cut it off right at that high-waisted jean waistline, and then I should be okay. And then I think the last thing I did was, I believe on the arms there is there's ribbing at the end here, and I instead did just like an I-cord around the edge instead, just for like a different sort of look to it. So it just kind of like rolls off the shoulder, just so that it kind of sits like that. And yeah, that's I think all the changes I made. But yeah, it was a really fun project to make because it's bulky, because it's a slip over. Even with kind of the cabling, it goes pretty quick. And I made this, like, I think I finished it in January or February of this year. So I'm excited to get some more chances this fall and winter to actually get to wear it. So yeah, that's Frisky Witch by Thea Coleman. Okay, so I have 5 projects to share with you today. 2 of them are finished objects, 1 is a half finished object, and 2 are WIPs. The first finished object I have is a pair of socks. So these are a pair of socks that I made for my husband. I didn't use a pattern. They're just kind of what I have been using as my vanilla sock pattern. If you go to my Ravelry, I do have a project for these socks. And so you can see in some more detail how I go about constructing a sock that fits my husband, if you ever need to make socks for him, I guess. So these socks are made with Bumblebee Acres Fiber Farm. This is what it looks like. This is their bubble sock, which is an 80% merino superwash and 20% silk. It is a 2-ply fingering, and the color is out of I really love this dyer's color inspiration sets. They do a lot of things from like fantasy and things like that. I know they've done like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and stuff like that. This is from Rings of Power, which is the Lord of the Rings TV show, and the colorway is Hallbrand. I have not seen the show, so I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But my husband is a big fan of the show, and so he really liked this. So it's just got this really lovely, like these reds and golden yellows, and then there's like some soft, like cool, misty blues and things in there. I finished these in like the end of August, but they got me so excited for fall with this color palette. They're so great. I got the yarn at Maryland Sheep and Wool this year. I was lucky enough to go to the festival, and I took my husband with me, and he's not like a fiber arts person, so I was really appreciative of the fact that like we had to drive a bit to get there, and that he went with me so that I could enjoy the festival. And so I told him, I said, hey, while we're there, as kind of a thank you and a gift, if you find a skein of yarn that you like, I'll buy it for you, and I'll make you a pair of socks for your birthday. Because he's not a sweater guy, so I've never made him a sweater, but he loves socks. He wears them all the time, and so he was like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And he very early on in the day he found a skein that he really liked, and so I made him socks for his birthday, which is in the summertime. And then we kept walking around, and if you've ever been to I've only been to Sheep and Wool, but I'm sure it's like Maryland Sheep and Wool, but I'm sure it's like this at every festival. Like everything is so beautiful. Like there's so many beautiful yarns and dyers, and you think you've made the right purchase, and then like all of a sudden there's like a huge line of like equally beautiful dyers in the next building. And so we were walking around after he'd purchased his first skein, and he was like, hey, if I buy some yarn myself, like if my husband buys it, will you make me a pair of socks out of any yarn I buy? And I said, yeah, of course. Like as long as I don't have a timeline for it, if you find some other yarn you like, I love making socks for him. So I was like, yeah, sure. So he ended up eventually buying 3 more skeins of yarn. So I made him a pair in the summer, and then this is the second pair that I've made for him. And actually, it's kind of perfect timing because next week is our wedding anniversary. We'll be married for 5 years. And so I can give him these as a part of like our anniversary celebration. And then, yeah, see when I have the time to make 2 more pairs. Okay, a couple of quick notes about the way that I make them. Like I said, I have everything on Ravelry, but like just real quick, I do about 25 rounds of 2x2 ribbing for the cuff because I know my husband in particular likes like a bigger cuff. It helps him stay up on his leg. And then I always do a German twisted short row heel. That is the preferred heel that I've found that my husband likes. So yeah, there we are, my little vanilla socks for my husband for our wedding anniversary. Okay, my next finished item is the Weekend hat by Hiromi Nagasawa. This is a cabled winter hat, and this is my finished object. The yarn I used was Harrisville Designs Highland, which is a worsted weight woolen spun yarn, and this colorway is just red. Not just red, it's red. And it is, yeah, a really lovely, just like classic red color. I think it leans, I don't know why it's not focusing, but it leans, it's a little cool. It's a little bit of a cooler red, but it's a really lovely color. I really like the cabling in this hat. These sort of like reversing, I believe they're called stag cables, that create this little bit of like a chevron or a zigzag pattern. Another nice kind of interesting element to this design that I don't see in a lot of hats. A lot of times the pattern around a hat, it repeats equally all the way around. But this actually has these side seams. Oh geez, I don't know why. There we go. Okay, so it has these like side seams. So you do 2 repeats of the 4 cables on either side, and then you have these little chunks of stockinette to kind of separate them. And I believe those go on either side of your head, the stockinette parts. But yeah, so I think it came out pretty cute. I don't wear red that often, but I do kind of like how it looks. It is like, it's not slouchy. It's too long for my head. It creates like a little bit of that like cool gnome look. Cool gnome look. But I do like the way that it fits. The pattern has 2 brim options that it gives you directions for. It's a 3x1 rib here at the bottom, and you can make either a single brim or a folded rim. And the reason they give you 2 sets of instructions is you do like a wrap and turn if you do the folded, so that you don't end up with the 1x3 on the outside like this. I had originally done a folded brim, and because I really like the way that looks, but I then got like 2 or 3 repeats into the pattern of the cables, and I was really worried I was going to run out of yarn, and I didn't want to get all the way to the end and run out. And so what I did instead was I really liked the look. I felt like the folded brim had like a much longer brim than the like single one, and so I just kept this single brim a little bit longer than what the pattern recommends. I think this is like, I don't know, it's like maybe like 3-4 inches, which does kind of put the cabling farther back. But I think like, let's mess my hair up just one more time. Ooh, and put it on sideways. So that's what it looks like if you put the stockinette in the front. Yeah. But what was I saying? Yeah, I think that's okay that the cabling starts a little bit back because you can definitely see it when I turn to the side, and I do like the look of that longer brim. So yeah, it was a pretty fun, quick knit. I know there's another weekend hat. I think it's a petite knit pattern, but in this one, I think the designer says that they called it the weekend hat because it's like something you could knit up in a weekend. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say about it. Yeah, really fun project, really pretty color. The Weekend Hat by Hiromi Nagasawa. Okay, the next half finished item I have is the Wild Wool Trail Socks by Jen Joyce Design. This is a cuff down hiking sock. It with a really unusual kind of gusset and heel flap construction, which I will talk about more in a second. I am knitting this with Cascade Heritage Sock in the colorway white, and also Cesium Yarn Merino Sock, which is a 75% superwash, 25% nylon, and the colorway is Creator of Beauty. And this is what my sock looks like. Oh, it looks so cute. It came out really nice. So yeah, so this was a really interesting sock to knit. At the top here, you do like 3 different kinds of ribbing, right? So you do kind of like a 2x2, and then I don't remember what the number is on this, but like a very wide rib, and then you do some corrugating ribbing, which is where you knit one of the 2 colors and then you purl the other color, and then you get to the section here that is this gusset construction. So I do not know how many different ways there are to make a heel on a sock. But from my experience, the 2 main ways that I've seen it done are 1, a heel flap and gusset, where you knit like a flat panel, you do some short rows to create a turn, and then you pick up stitches along that gusset to create a wider part, and then you do some decreases. You do decreases to get back to like the foot size, which is usually the same number of stitches as the top. I don't know if I explained that super well, but hopefully you understand what I was saying. And then the other way, which is similar to what I did with these socks, so I'll show you again, is some version of knit a tube for the sock, and then do some kind of like short rows or decreases to create a heel. So that could be an afterthought heel or a forethought heel, which is where you kind of run waste yarn through to create that gap later on, or you can do it while you go, which is like a German short row heel, which is again like what this looks like here. So we can see like this is a sock with that kind of heel, and then you can see like how different in shape this one is to this one. Let me put the heels next to each other so you can see. There we go. Okay. First of all, sorry if I look or sound a little bit different. I just had a giant sneezing fit. I forgot that with all the joys that fall brings, it also brings really bad allergies for me. And so I'm dealing with that right now. So apologies. But let me tell you about the construction of the heel on this sock. So what you do is, once you start this like 1x1 stranded colorwork section here, you do increases along this edge to create this extra space for the gusset. And then when you get to the heel, you do like pretty standard wrap and turns on the heel, or if you knit other heels where you like knit 2 together and like then purl back to the gap, knit 2 together, you do that until you basically end up with the same number of stitches that you had before you got to the gusset. So the jury's out as to whether I am gonna like this heel. When I first finished the sock, I tried it on and I was kind of concerned about the fit because it felt really tight in here, first of all. And then it felt like the heel was rolling under my foot. So I ended up with the bulk of my heel in this like corrugated ribbing section here rather than it sitting nicely on the part where it's supposed to. So I didn't want to knit another whole sock um, if I wasn't going to like the fit at all. So I blocked this, I put it on my sock blockers, I let it dry, and then I tried it on again and it felt way better. So it was sitting like a sock was supposed to sit. It was still like a little tight, but I think like that's intentional. This is like they called it, I think, like a reinforced gusset or something like that. So because it's meant for hiking and like more, it's just meant to be more durable. So the real goal, like the real test will be once I finish both of them to wear them doing something active like hiking or doing something like that. So I will keep you posted on how I feel about that. But despite any reservations I have about the like feel, I do love the look of them. They're a very fun sock to knit because you're doing kind of like different things as you go down, which makes every section feel like a new kind of like exciting thing to do. So, and I do love this color palette. I'm obsessed with this like purpley lilac lavender color right now. And so yeah, I think it's just like so pretty to have these like really like delicate feminine colors in what is supposed to be like a sort of like hard wearing, durable, rugged sock. So yeah, those are the Wild Wool Trail Socks by Jen Joyce Designs. All right, now let's move on to WIPs. So the first WIP I have is the Freeze Frame Shawl by Callie Monster. This is a one size pattern, but I am making it a little smaller. I'll explain when I show it to you. I am knitting this with two yarns. The first is just more Cascade Heritage sock in the color black. And then I'm using this SRT yarn. And this is in the color, I believe it's just like their base color for this, but it's called Donegal. It's 85% merino, 15% Donegal. And it is a lovely like tweedy yarn with these like brown and black bits. These are both fingering weight yarns, and this is knit on a US 4, which is 3.5 millimeter needles. And this is what I have so far. So you start, this is actually, I've never knit a shawl or a wrap before. I've been knitting for years and I just never done it. And so it's really fun to learn like a new technique and a new construction. And so if you, like me, have not knit a triangle shawl, you will learn that you start with just a few stitches cast on, and then you do a mixture actually of increases and decreases to make it bigger and also like create like one side that's flat and the other side that curves out. A detail of this pattern I like is the way that they use a combination of slip stitches and like a single row of like twisted stitches to create a nice, they create this nice little edging. And then all of the color work is mosaic color work. If you haven't done mosaic color work, there's actually a really fun make-along going right now. Casey from Young Folk Knits is doing the Mosaic Mayhem make-along this fall, and she actually has a really good video out right now kind of describing mosaic knitting in detail and also giving you a really nice list of a bunch of mosaic knit patterns you could try if you're interested in being a part of that. But basically what it is it's a color work where you're using slipped stitches and alternating which color you're working to create the color work. So rather than carrying to any colors you're using at the same time, you're alternating which color you're actively using and slipping stitches along the way to create the different patterns. I really like these. Like, these are really fun little geometric patterns that they have. I just finished this second section here. And I think I have one more to go, and then there's some like a bigger white section and then some striping. But yeah, I am really enjoying it. I did say like I'm making it a little bit smaller. So I think I want, because I don't wear shawls, I don't think I'm gonna be a big fan of like this look for shawls. You know what I mean? Like where the triangle's in the back and you like throw it like that over your shoulders. I just don't think I'll wear that often. I think I will probably end up styling this a lot more like an oversized bandana or an oversized scarf where, you know, the point is in the front and you wrap it around a little bit. And so I thought making it a little bit smaller would make that way of styling it a little bit easier. And so to make that change, all I did was I made this black section a little bit smaller. I think like the pattern tells you to get to like, if the pattern tells you to get to like 90 stitches in a row, I got to 70 stitches. So because this is fingering, that like should be about 3 inches smaller. And then like if you extrapolate that out, that should make a little bit more of a manageable sized shawl for me. But this is my first time doing it, so we'll see what happens. If you watched my fall knitting plans video, you may have seen that I said I was going to use those 2 yarns to make a different wrap, that I was going to make the Knit As You Are wrap by Sweater Freak. Like I said, I do not knit wraps or shawls. And so what happened was I had miscalculated. I don't know. I guess I didn't check. But I needed a lot more yarn than what I had. I needed, I think, like 800 yards of that main color, and I only had 1 skein, so I only had about 400 yards. So the good news is I actually have in my stash, I think, a different set of fingering weight yarns that will work, so I can still make that one, but I wanted to prioritize using this yarn over like using the pattern, so that's why I did some more looking and I found this one. So yeah, one last time, this is the Freeze Frame Shawl by Callie Monster. All right, so my last WIP today is the Champagne Cardigan by Petite Knit. This is a top-down raglan cardigan with a V-neck and a double knit button band. I am knitting the size small, which is the second size. The original pattern, I believe, calls for Sandnes Garn Tin Silk, which is a mohair, and Sandnes Garn Double Sunday, which is a DK, held together, which will give you like a worsted gauge. That's the intended yarn and gauge. I am using this Chester Farms Pride of the Flock in the color Spice Heather. This is a 100% Fisherman's Virgin wool that where they've preserved some of the natural lanolin in it. So it's a pretty rustic yarn. It's a single ply. Also, Chester Farms is now, I believe they're called like Cassia Farms. I'll write it down. I'll put it in the video and I'll add it, a link to it and more information in the show notes. But this is a discontinued yarn. I got it secondhand, but it is, it's really lovely. And I don't mind that it's very rustic. And then I'm using it in conjunction with Mayflower Super Kid Silk in the color 98. So the Chester Farms looks like this. It's this really nice, I would almost say like a oatmeal color, like a heathered oatmeal. And then this is the mohair. Come on. So that is the mohair. So it's like light beige. This is what they look like together in their little separate balls. And then this is what they look like in my cardigan. So, oh yeah. So held together, it really like creates a very subtle marling, but in conjunction with the heathering of the yarn, that Chester Farms yarn, it just there's this really nice oatmeal color, classic oatmeal, as they say. I have almost finished the body. It looks a little short, but the pattern I think calls for like 4 inches of the bottom ribbing, and I think if I start that pretty soon, it will hit, not, it won't be as cropped as what I showed this earlier, but like it will be a little more cropped than the original pattern shows, which is a silhouette I prefer. If you watch my fall knitting plans video, there was another similar cardigan I was looking at, the Frankie cardigan by Sandnes Garn, which I think is a little more cropped, just a little more cropped than the Champagne cardigan. And that was one thing I liked about it, but I would have had to purchase yarn from Sandnes Garn to get the pattern, and I wanted to use what was in my stash. So, yeah, I have knit a couple of petite knit patterns before. I knit the Champagne, or I'm knitting the Champagne cardigan. I knit the balloon cardigan, and I knit the Aros sweater last year. And yeah, I think what draws a lot of people to her patterns is like some of the design elements and the attention to detail. I think this has this like 3-stitch raglan shaping, which I really like because it creates that more of a bold line across the front, and it looks like the raglan is very intentional. So I think that's really nice. You also do the short row shaping very early. So once I have the button band on, I'm really excited to see how that affects the fit. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. So last time, the Champagne cardigan by Petite Knit. All right. I think that's all I have for you today. If you liked this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. I would love to hear in the comments if you're excited for fall knitting, if you started your fall knitting, if you're finally getting some crisp, cool temperatures where you are. And yeah, so until next time, happy knitting.